In March of 1933, RKO Pictures came out with one of the most famous films of all time, King Kong. Desperate to follow up on the success, they decided to rush another film out just 9 months later, in December of the same year. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we come to what we are about to see today. This is Son of Kong, a film that immediately follows up on the aftermath of the first film, following main character Carl Denham as he takes a journey back to the island. Now, this film was rushed and they weren't shy about it. In fact, they were kind of smart about this. They decided to not even try to make this as good as the first film, because they knew there was going to be no way they possibly could. So instead, they literally made half a film. This film was only 69 minutes long. That's right, only an hour and 9 minutes compared to the almost 2-hour first movie. And in this film, they decided to focus more on humor than anything, and it was okay, I suppose. I mean, it was obviously a rushed film, but at least they were honest about what it was. Hell, Robert Armstrong, who played Carl Denham, even said he preferred this film as it gave Denham a lot more character development. But I think they may have overestimated how much we actually cared about the human characters, because to be honest, while they were good in the first movie, I didn't really care that much. I was just there to see King Kong wreck shit. And this movie, to be honest, was more just about Denham. You might as well call it Carl Denham the movie. This King Kong, Son of Kong monster was literally just there to have a monster in it. And that's because nobody would pay to watch a movie called Carl Denham the movie, so they made it Son of Kong. But that's basically what this was. But even though it was kind of just a boring human film, it wasn't terrible. It had some bright spots. But how much did this rushed King Kong sequel really provide? Well, we're about to find out as we take a look back at the Son of Kong. So the movie kicks off 1 month after the events of King Kong rampaging through New York. As a result of this, our hero Carl Denham is being sued by pretty much everybody and is about to be indicted on the grand jury for it. Denham then reunites with Captain Eaglehorn, who still does not have a first name. Eaglehorn assumes that it's only a matter of time before he too is indicted, and the two men make an agreement to get the hell out of the country. They decide to travel around the Orient shipping cargo to make money, which doesn't yield very positive results. While docking in the Dutch port of Kang, they notice there's a show in town, which Denham is very eager to see. The show ends up being multiple performing monkeys that only goes on for about a minute and a half, but my god does it feel like 5. The show gets capped off by a young woman named Hilda Peterson, who performs her hit song Runaway Blues. Eaglehorn and the rest of the crew were bored by the show, but Denham seemed to enjoy it and took a particular interest in Hilda. The show is run by Hilda's father, who also never gets a first name, and Mr. Peterson stays up drinking that night with a skipper named Niles Hailstrom. They start going at each other and eventually it turns to violence. Hailstrom smashes a bottle over Mr. Peterson's head and also knocks over a lamp, causing the whole tent to catch on fire. This wakes Hilda up, who quickly springs into action, sets the animals free, and drags her father to hell on out of there. Unfortunately for her though, her dad is dead. I guess that bottle over the head just straight killed him. Hilda tries to get her monkeys to come back the next day, but they look less than interested. Denham shows up out of nowhere to comfort her, but to be honest, she doesn't seem that bent out of shape about it. She's more interested by the prospect that Denham may be involved in show business, but he denies this and tells her that he doesn't have a place for her. Hilda then runs into Hailstrom, who she suspects killed her father, and well, he did. She then very coldly lets him know that she's basically gonna rat him out as soon as the Coast Guard or whatever come in a couple of days. Hailstrom stumbles into a bar and meets up with Denham and Eaglehorn. Turns out Hailstrom was the one who sold Denham the map to King Kong's island in the first place. Down on his luck, Hailstrom asks Denham for a favor, and Denham agrees to let him ride with them. Hailstrom also lets them know of an apparent treasure on the island, and knowing that this could get them out of all their bad luck, Eaglehorn and Denham agree to go on back. Before he leaves, Denham decides to go check up on Hilda one more time. She begs him to take her with, but he refuses, saying it's too dangerous for her. Hilda said fuck that noise though, as she's stowed away on the boat anyway. Hailstrom is terrified at seeing her, and convinces her to keep quiet about the fact that he literally murdered her dad. And although he was frustrated initially, Denham doesn't seem to be too upset that Hilda's here. In fact, there seems to be a bunch of sexual tension brewing. The next day, Denham is called up onto the deck and oh shit, it looks like we got a mutiny. That's right, Captain Bottle Murder has turned the crew in his favor. As a result of this, Denham, Eaglehorn, Hilda, and the cook Charlie all leave on a raft to the island. Hailstrom tries to assert himself as a new captain, but the sailors aren't really having it. They decide they're not too fond of captains anymore, and they promptly yeet him into the water. And reluctantly, the good guys let him tag along. They arrive back on the island, and well, the natives aren't exactly too happy to see them. The natives blame Denham for the destruction Kong caused to their village, even though it's completely their fault because they're the ones who kidnapped Anne in the first place, but regardless, they're pissed, so Denham and friends decide to leave. They row all the way to the other side of the island and finally ride into a cave. Denham and Halda climb to higher ground where they stumble upon a much smaller looking version of King Kong. Denham automatically assumes that this has to be King Kong's son because, what else could it be? They find that little Kong is stuck in the quicksand, and feeling guilty about what happened to King Kong, Denham decides to help him out. They knock over a tree, and little Kong's able to pull himself right on out. The group decides to split up into 2 teams. Halda goes with Denham, and Eaglehorn, Hailstorm, and the cook Charlie go in another. Well, I'm sure everything will be fine for our new trio. Oh my god, what the fuck is that? Well, what the fuck that is apparently a very pissed off dinosaur, and it looks like they're gonna be trapped in there a little bit. Well, I'm sure Denham and Halda are having better luck. Oh my god, that is a giant bear! But never fear, little Kong is here to save the day. Kong locks the bear in the Peruvian deathlock and looks like he's got him, but then the bear gets top mount. After a little bit of back and forth, Kong just bonks the bear over the head a couple times with a tree branch, causing it to flee. Kong hurt his middle finger during the tussle though, and Denham decides to repay him by bandaging it for him. Denham then tries to get a coconut for Halda, and little Kong decides to help him out. That night, Denham and Halda have built a fire, and my god, the sexual tension is just off the fucking charts. Little Kong wanders in as well, but instead of ruining the moment, just decides to sit there and flip them off silently. The next day, the coast is clear for our trio, but the bad news is their gun is completely destroyed. Denham's gun is fine though, and he decides to fire a shot to attract their attention, which scares the ever-living Christ out of little Kong. Denham then tries to get inside some kind of temple, and little Kong helps him out yet again. Inside the temple, they find diamonds and realize they're gonna be rich. Little Kong decides to celebrate this by ending it all. Little Kong ends up breaking the gun, but it's not like they're gonna need it. Oh my god, what the fuck is that? Well, that is some giant motherfucking lizard-looking thing, and it's coming straight for them. Don't worry, Oh wait, King Kong's already here. Little Kong's already here, but don't worry, he's gonna commit big lizard murder. Denham and Halda then reunite the trio and reveals to them that he found the treasure. Hailstorm's like, what the hell are you talking about though? There was never no treasure, I just made that shit up. Hailstorm then catches wind of little Kong and decides to get the hell out of Dodge. I'm sure that'll go completely fine for him. Oh my god, what the hell is that? That's right, it's Loch Ness Monster 2, Electric Boogaloo, and he's here to eat people. Well, things can't possibly get worse. Just kidding, time for a massive earthquake. And apparently this is the biggest earthquake in the history of earthquakes, as it literally destroys the entire fucking island. Halda, Eaglehorn, and the cook get away on the raft, while Denham and little Kong try to climb to safety. As the ground sinks below them, little Kong holds Denham up so that he can be saved, and little Kong unfortunately drowns. Our heroes are now lost at sea, unfortunately, and it looks like there's no way— oh wait, no, there's a boat. They're fine. The movie ends with Denham and Halda deciding to split the treasure 3 ways, between the cook, between Eaglehorn, and between the 2 of them as a new couple. And that's it! Movie over. Short-ass film, right? But like I said, this is literally what they did. They were very honest about what this was, and they basically just made a half movie. But was this half movie good enough to get ahead of anything on our King Kong board? Well, let's pull it up and find out. So as I expressed before, I was not a big fan of King Kong vs. Godzilla. It took forever to get to the fight, and my god, it just had a bunch of boring human plot which I did not care about. But, in that movie's defense, this movie was pretty much entirely boring human plot. Again, this wasn't even a King Kong movie. This was just Carl Denham the movie. And that's why, even though King Kong vs. Godzilla wasn't that good, I cannot justify putting this over that. This wasn't necessarily a terrible movie, but I mean, at least King Kong vs. Godzilla delivered at the end with King Kong Godzilla. This was just some cheap King Kong knockoff, again as an excuse to promote Carl Denham the movie, so here are the new rankings. King Kong 1933, number 1, King Kong vs. Godzilla, number 2, Son of Kong, number 3. Well, in conclusion, while this wasn't really a bad film, it was just kind of unnecessary. I appreciate them being honest about what it was, but this really just didn't need to be made. Maybe I'm in a minority, but I really didn't care about what happened to Denham next. I was just here to see King Kong fuck shit up. And that's why for the next film, we're gonna turn it back over to Toho as they make their second and final King Kong film, King Kong Escapes. But that is for another time. That is going to do it for my look back at Son of Kong. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Join me back here next week for my look back at Mothra. But that is going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. All my social media links are in the description down below. Thank you to all 38 of my patrons for your constant support of me and my channel. My name is Noah Taft. This has been my look back at King Kong, or excuse me, Son of King Kong, 1933, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.